Welcome to this month's Men's Club. We apologize we changed the date, but we're renters here and they already rented this room for next Sunday. So that's what happens when you're a renter. We had a very successful picnic, and thank you for everybody who showed up. We don't have any other things pending yet, so we will let you know. There are going to be a lot of people announcing things that they want you to participate in. Again, please put the donations on that table if you have any. We'll take care of that. Okay, so have you done there, the chairs? Let's pledge allegiance. Please stand up. Bob, go ahead. Bob. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay, please stay standing. We will do the Israeli Katikva. Thank you. Amotzi. Okay, so we have a number of people who wanted to do announcements, so we'll do that at the beginning. So, Perloff, you go first.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, before I start with my report, I just want to point out, if you'll notice in the corner, Abe did mention about the donations, the physical donations. We have people bring in books, and when you bring in books, that means anybody else can come up and take them. You know, so it's like a book swap. Anything that's left gets donated to, what is it, the library?
Yeah.
Oh, Book Smiles, right, where they're given for kids and stuff. That's one. The second thing is you'll see there's eyeglasses up there sometimes, and they go to Rich Moskowitz, which goes to Lions Club. The third thing is people bring in food that's taken to the pantry. I'm sure you all are aware of it, but we have several teams that alternate every other week to do volunteer work at the Jewish Family and Children's Service food pantry. So people bring food in. Okay, so that's that over there. Another thing that we rarely mention, but you should know about, is mitzvah cards. And mitzvah cards are cards that you can, sometimes they're here. If you say you want to do a congratulations, or a sympathy, or anything. Mitzvah cards, who takes care of them here? Phil? Mitzvah cards, could you just, real quick, how do people get them? Len Berman? And sometimes we have them here, so if there's something that you need sent out, we mail them out for you, okay? And you make a small donation, whatever the process is. All right, now on to my announcement. As most of you do know, we participate in helping hands-on with Israel. And one of the things we've been doing the last, especially since October, was we help grassroots organizations in Israel who get supplies for the IDF. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, but some of you weren't here, you say, what do you mean? Well, I was in the Army, we need something, we tell the logistics officer, and boom, we get it. It doesn't quite work that way in Israel. It's a bit of a mess in many ways. So after that October invasion from Gaza, there was dozens of small grassroots organizations that popped up because they all have family members in the IDF. So if somebody said, hey mom, we can't get headlamps. You know the headlamps? So people would donate money or go buy them and things like that. But it gets even more and more in there and more. The most extreme was 5 years ago when we helped buy, I believe it was 15 or more updated bulletproof vests. You'd say, what? Everybody gets them. No. And we actually funded that, and Nelson Mellitz and I were there when they were being distributed. So we know it was legit. Now for the current thing, Eli Lander, who can't be here today, he actually carried things in a huge suitcase on El Al and dropped it off at one of the distribution centers. Now that things have slowed down a bit in terms of need, they're down to about 3 or 4 organizations doing this directly to the IDF. And I believe we had pictures and a small video of the soldiers being handed the stuff that we actually bought and sent over. Well, there's a new thing that they need now. Well, I was told yesterday, because what we do is we call first to make sure they still need things. And I was told yesterday that what they needed was tourniquets. You'd say, tourniquets? Oh, medical supplies. Yeah, they need tourniquets because every soldier gets one. And when they get lost or dirty or whatever, they need replacements, and it's a big logistical issue. So a couple months ago, we bought, it was about 75 tourniquets, amongst other things. Well, they're out of those. So we're going to buy them. They also need, you know, the multi-tools, like the Leathermans, you know? Yeah. Yeah. So they need them. They need 2 kinds. For tactical units, they want the black ones, so there's no danger of when they're using them, there'll be reflections. You know what I mean? It's safer that way. And then they'll need, those are, the best price we found for a good one was about $40 for one. Then they need some that also are very durable, will last long, do a good job, and but they don't have to be black. Those we could get for about $23, $24. So the men's club put up $500. Do the math, that's not going to get a lot. Jewish war vets matched it, gave us $500. And I was told not to mention names. We had several people give us altogether another $500. And another pledge for $200, so we're up to $1,700. We're a little short, and we're going to buy things this week. Now, how's it work? We're buying it through the JCC, who's going to order from Amazon, which we checked with the best price for those 3 items. And they get the tax break. For those of you that aren't aware of it, you can have a tax-exempt number, and you have to set it up completely different with Amazon. Well, that takes time. We couldn't do it in a week. Thank you, Abe.
There you go.
Thanks. Now, if you'd like to make a donation, you make a check out to the JCC. Get it to me, and I will bring it this week when I place the order. Is there anybody right now who would like to make a donation? Dave?
Yeah, I got my check.
Fine, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. If you have a checkbook with you, make a check out to JCC, give it to me now. If you want to give cash, you can do that also, guaranteed. What'll happen is I'll have to make a check out to JCC, but I'll do that also.
I'll give you a check.
Excellent, thank you. It can't be too big or too small. We're short about, maybe, I won't say 1,000, but whatever you get, you'll get. We'll just get fewer things if we don't get enough money. And then when there's more needs, we'll let you know. And we'll have a video of the things that we're going to buy and send over there with the soldiers having what we bought in their hands, thanking you. Okay, any questions?
So when are you going to order it?
It's got to be this week.
Who's the check made out to?
JCC.
Okay.
He asked, who's the check made out to? The Jewish Community Center, JCC. And it's a nice partnership. And we're probably going to, it's probably not enough time now, but we're going to try to get a few other organizations involved. Now, how do you get the stuff there? People have to tell us, I'll get you in a minute, okay? People have to tell us when they're going, and we're going to give you some of that stuff to put into your check-in bag. Now, why the check-in and not the carry-on? Because things like the, it's got a knife on it. You're going to have a little problem. Okay, yes, sir.
So can you designate someone behind the desk? Because I come to the gym, I can drop off, check there.
We'd have to set it up, but I'm not sure how.
How else will I get it to you quickly?
Give me a call and bring it to my house.
What's your address?
1738 Country Club Drive in Woodcrest, the corner of Country Club and Fireside. Very conveniently, there's a big white rock on the corner that says 1738. But give me a call, not a problem, we'll work it out. All right, any other questions? If you're going to Israel, and within the next, soon, very soon, I'm working through different Israeli groups also. And it's like these little tools, they're heavy. So you can't take a whole lot. That's why we need many people to do it. And what happens is, you get there, you're going to call up the person, you're going to arrange to get together, you're going to hand them over, bingo. And we'll take, sometimes we'll take your picture. If there's no other questions, I'm moving on. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Bernie, hot enough for you guys? Does it make you think back to when you were a kid and you went to camp? Somehow it didn't bother you back then. If you want to relive camp experience, at least maybe for a couple hours, on July 14th, my wife and I are sponsoring Bring Your Grandparent Today to Camp Day at the JCC camp in Medford. For those of you who have grandchildren on the younger side, might want to spend a few hours with them at camp. It's on a Sunday, July 14th. It's being run, Sarah Sellers downstairs. Her extension is 1234. We'll have some activities, some good things to eat. And you'll say, well, July 14th, that's Bastille Day. Maybe I'm busy. Well, sorry, we're not going to have croissant. But as the French say, liberté, fraternité, Marie Chevalier. So think about it. Bring your grandchildren on that day.
You're going to put an announcement at the JCC, no? The JCC?
You'll come out through the JCC as well. It should be a fun day with your grandchildren.
Morning.
Morning.
A couple of months ago, we had someone from Booksmarts, Larry Abrams. There's Booksmarts and there's Book Smiles. Stay with me, okay? Whoa, I know there was a man and a woman, so.
This is for grown-ups, right?
This is for grown-ups. So I put this out. I got a call from Larry Abrams, and he asked me to get 10 people together to volunteer one day. And we have 12. So we're going to arrange a date. And this article comes from the Voorhees paper. If you live in Voorhees, you get this whether you want to or not. And there's a big write-up, and it mentions Larry. And it's in Pennsauken that we're going, and we spend 2 hours there. There's no heavy lifting. We're just sorting books. And then the other opportunity, we have two good-looking guys over here, Jerry and Steve, that are doing the, was that funny? He's very sensitive. Anyway, I'm not going to mention a person's name here and embarrass anyone, but in ShopRite, a woman came up to me, identified herself, and said she can't remember the last time her husband bought her jewelry. And so I said, I'll see what I can do. And I walked up to this fella and made sure he got into the 50-50. So if you haven't bought your wife jewelry, you can at least say, I tried. If you want to come with the next group, I'll be sitting over there. I have 2 physicians and 2 lawyers. So you'll address them to get to me, and we'll get you on the list. Thanks, guys. Anybody know that the Mets won, the Mets won 11-1 on Friday before Shabbat? What do you mean, who cares? This is the ticker tape parade. I'll be back with the details.
Okay, that was Rob Levine. Get used to it. He's going to be our next president in a year. So you got a year to get used to him.
That's right. By that time, we'll be used up all his jokes.
Bernie.
I set up a nice show at the Simeon Museum. Got 40-some cars. These are antique, classic cars, and some of my friends are bringing their cars. And I'm going there this afternoon. You're welcome to join me. Phil and I are going to go there, and it should be a lot of fun. It's inside. It's air-conditioned. It's $35 to the Children's Hospital to get in. It's a donation, and you should have fun. Simeon passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years ago, and his daughter may or may not be able to be interested in keeping the thing going. So you may not have too much time to see the Simeon Museum. You're going there Tuesday, and it's a great place. They have about 100 cars, the actual cars that won the races. And I'm going this afternoon. If you want to go, see me. I'm sitting right there. Thank you.
First thing I want to say is on this grandparents thing, can I bring my grandparents?
You gotta bring them.
Well, okay.
No pictures. Have the real body.
Got a question to ask everybody. Are there any members, former members of the Sigma Alpha Rho fraternity? Next week, are you planning to go to the reunion?
I am.
Because I'm planning to go as well, and I'm trying to recruit other people. A friend of mine coming in from Warminster area is coming to this as well, and I'm glad we're going to have some other people to join us. So if you're not planning to go and you'd like to go, please see me afterwards, and I'll make arrangements. I'll give you the information that you need to know in order to be able to go there. Thank you.
Okay, one reminder, we're going to have a meeting of the investment club after this is over, so please attend that. And now, Ed, look at that, 3 minutes early.
Fantasy football.
Oh, fantasy football. Yeah, Ed's going to do that. Ed's going to
I'm
do
going to
it.
mention it. Fantasy football, Don couldn't be here today. I think he's getting ready for his cruise. He was delayed a few weeks due to one of his medical emergencies, but I think he's okay, and I think he's going to be off cruising. But anyway, fantasy football, our draft is, I believe, late August. There's still time to get in. I think the admission's still $130, I believe. Is that right?
150.
150 now, the inflation. So if you're interested, it's a lot of fun. I'm a member with one of my sons. I know we have members and grandchildren that are team owners and so forth. You can let me know. You can call Don. You can let Marty know. He's our treasurer. I think we could use a couple more teams if anybody's interested. And I think that's it. So this morning, we're honored to have Sarah Spellman here from AARP. Sarah is a volunteer. She's going to talk about fraud and protecting your data. And I'd like to welcome her. She's from Medford.
I was asked to introduce myself. I was telling Ed that my career was working with older adults. And then when I became one, I realized I needed to retire. It just got too weird. I worked locally with Cadbury and started the Cadbury at Home program, new model at the time, that was about 30 years ago, and then started consulting and had a national practice. Did a lot of traveling and am so happy to be retired and be home. But when I retired about 2.5 years ago, I thought I still need to volunteer and do something. So I get the AARP bulletin. You'll get the periodicals from AARP. And in it, there was a call out for people to volunteer for the Speakers Bureau. And I thought, I spoke at the national level in my career, this kind of fits. So I have volunteered now for about 2 years, mostly in South Jersey, but it's a lot of fun. So I am here to talk to you about protecting your data. Before I get started, I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Surgeon General came out and said socialization we're at a crisis in our country for loneliness, and they actually had studies about the fact that loneliness can impact our health very negatively. And the only reason I'm saying this, it's a big focus of AARPs right now, but I'm looking at what I think might be the largest group of men I have ever seen gathered in my career. And it's fabulous. Because men, we were talking at our table, men don't tend to get together as often as women do. And so I just want to tell you, it warms my heart. I love this. Yeah. I'm going to ignore that comment. I don't know if you heard he said it was an escape. I can't imagine who he is escaping from, but we'll go. How funny is that? So anyway, let me get started. We're going to talk today about protecting your personal data. Real simple strategies to do so. And for many of us, we are connected on the internet. We do, our social lives sometimes are on there. We socialize with our friends. We talk to our family. We buy things. You guys were just talking about purchasing things from Amazon. We do our banking online. We are online. Even at our ages, we're online, right? And we can't not be. The strategy to protect your data isn't to not be online. It's to be online and be smarter about it. So that's what we're going to talk today about. And the Federal Trade Commission published some data. This is a bit dated, but there were a reporting of 1.4 million ID theft reports, and that's in 21, so it's a little dated. We know that's increased. And fraud cases, this is current data, is up 70% from 2020. And it is a focus of AARP. So, how can we protect our data? And let me try to figure out how to do this. It's a little bit... All right.
Can I ask that we give the lights in the back?
Okay.
Thank you.
I wish I could see where I am here.
You may pull this up so you can see it.
Yeah, let me go up a little bit just so I can see where I am. Shoot. I'm good. I'm good.
Oh.
I feel like I'm being a pain. Oh, really good. All right, I can see, guys.
Got enough? Let's
Yeah.
straighten this up so it doesn't fall down.
Thanks. I'm being very difficult, right?
This swings around, by the way. This swings around.
Swings
Not
around.
this.
Is that 3?
Like that.
Okay. All right, we're set. So, let's talk about data breaches first. What tends to happen? And that is when our data is stolen. It doesn't necessarily mean that fraud has happened, but our data is stolen all the time. So how many of you, just a show of hands, how many of you have gotten a letter from some organization that your data was possibly breached? Yeah. So it happens all the time that our data is breached because hackers are keeping very busy. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that data has been used. So that distinction is the theft of data, someone unauthorized to obtain your data, but fraud is when that data is actually used to set up an account to basically steal something. And luckily enough, while fraudulent behavior is costing literally billions of dollars in our country, the percentage of us that actually are impacted is fairly low. So that's the good news. When our data is stolen, what happens to it? Well, in most cases, those fraudsters are putting our data on the dark web. So just a little bit of education about the dark web. This was kind of new news to me. It may not be to you. But just some definition regarding the web, and that is that the surface web, they use the analogy of an ocean. The surface web, which is where we do all of our research, where we access Amazon and Google is on the surface web. That's only 4% of the internet. I thought that was kind of interesting. The deep web, which is about 90%, is where the data that requires passwords. That's the easiest way to think about it. So it's our banking data, our healthcare data. That's what is called the deep web. But the dark web, which is 6% of our data, that's where all of any stolen, that's where the criminals are working. It's also where legitimate folks are working. It's where spies do a lot of work. It's where journalists are, where they want to talk with someone and that person doesn't want the world to know they're talking with a journalist. So they're on the dark web. And you can get on the dark web, it's free. You just have to download certain software to be able to access it. So this is easy stuff. And that's where our data is going and where it is being bought and sold on a regular basis. So what AARP has done is, knowing that this is such an issue, they have gone out and talked with and interviewed criminals that have been caught that have focused on fraudulent internet and data practices. And this gentleman, Blue London, and I'm just going to read the quote, and that is that the overwhelming majority of stolen profiles on the dark web are of seniors. They are the easiest to acquire, they have the most value, and they are the least likely to become compromised because most seniors don't check their accounts regularly. So we're gonna talk about that. Let me try to, can I get some help here?
I'm the guy who built the first organized cybercrime community, and it laid the foundation that modern cybercrime channels still follow today. I was placed on the United States Most Wanted list, arrested. I served 7.5 years in federal prison. There's no way I can make amends for the damage I caused in the past. Today, I try to help people avoid and protect themselves against the type of person that I used to be. The internet is made up of basically 3 different areas. The first is the surface web. Basically, that's everything that you can find on Google. That's 4% of the internet. The other 96% is the deep web. That's medical data, emails, anything that's behind some sort of wall. Within that deep web is what's called the dark web. And the dark web is where a lot of criminal activity takes place and things like that. Your information can be sold at large there. I can buy your social security number and your date of birth for $2.90. I can buy your complete identity profile. That's your name, your address, your social security, your date of birth, your mother's maiden, your driver's license number, your background check, and your credit report. I can buy that entire profile for a low of $40 and a high of $130. Just last year, there were 1,500 reported breaches, $2.6 billion records compromised. Your information is out there. So knowing that, then what do you do about it? There are basically three things. The first is you freeze the credit of yourself and every single person in the house, including the kids, because children are the number one victims of identity theft. But a credit freeze only takes care of new account fraud. So you also have to monitor existing accounts, bank accounts, credit cards, email logins, merchant logins, put alerts on all accounts that you can. The third thing, passwords. We don't know how to do passwords properly. We use the same password across multiple websites. Criminals know that, so what I advise people to do is use a password manager. It's basically a software program that picks passwords for you. Make sure you're more safe. Those three things, freezing credit, monitoring accounts, using a password manager, that makes sure that you're not loading in fruit and you're not going to be as easy a victim as all those other people.
So that's an example of someone that AARP has learned from in order to support older adults in our country in relation to fraud. So let's talk a little bit about those strategies that this gentleman suggested that we focus on. And the first one is to freeze your credit. And how many of you have frozen your credit? Am I speaking to? Okay, so about half. So what they are suggesting is that you go to the 3 credit companies in the country, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And it's very easy, and that you put a freeze on your credit. And basically, if someone buys your information on the dark web, they won't be able to do much with it. They can't open a new account because any financial institution is going to check. And I mean anyone from Bank of America to Raymore and Flanagan. When you're looking for credit, they're going to check with those 3 organizations first. And if you have a freeze, they're going to come back to you, or whoever, and say, no, I'm sorry, you cannot get that credit. Now, the trick here is, if you do want credit, if you're going to buy that piece of furniture at Raymore and Flanagan, and you want to pay over time, you need to make sure that you call that day and take that freeze off of your credit, because you can't get credit either. And it sounds more difficult than it is. I did give, Ed, I don't know if you got them, but there are some handouts.
We sent it out by email.
Okay.
Attachment to all of them.
One of those handouts is how to freeze your credit. So it gives you the details. Yes?
You can go online with these credit companies, freeze your credit, unfreeze your credit, and when you unfreeze it, you can actually set a parameter for when you want it open, when you want it closed. So that you don't even have to remember to close your credit. They will automatically do it based on their program.
That's great. That's really helpful. Yes?
You also have to renew annually.
You have to renew annually.
Yeah, when you freeze your credit, it's only good for 1 year. You gotta
No,
renew it.
no, it's good forever until you unfreeze it.
I think one of the things that we need to remember is this changes. They're updating the abilities all the time, so I believe that that's probably accurate, that you can set those parameters.
Yeah, a fraud watch is annual. In other words, if you've been listed as possibly having your information breached, you can put a fraud alert on your account. That's good for 1 year and it has to be renewed. But if you freeze your credit, that's good until you unfreeze it.
That's helpful. Could everyone hear that?
No.
Can we give Sarah a chance to finish?
Oh no, that's okay. I'll stop if I think that there's not enough time. But thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. Because I believe you know more about this at this point than I do, because it's changing every day. So what the gentleman had shared was he believes that when you put a freeze on your credit, and then you go to unfreeze it, you can put a parameter on that that says, I want this unfrozen for today, June 23rd, and then I want it to go back to being frozen on the 24th, because you know you're shopping at Raymore and Flanagan. I don't work there, by the way. I'm just using that as an example. But we basically, it's changing all the time, so I really recommend that you go on and follow what...
One thing
Yes,
is that they only go, I just leased a car, but they only go to one of them. So you only have to unfreeze one. So you have to ask them which one.
Right.
Yes, you can sign up for in one of those, TransUnion, let's say.
Sign up for 3, but you only have to open one.
I thought that you only had to go to one and they communicate with the other 2.
No, Ava's right. You have to ask, if you want to open up a new credit card, you need to ask the business or the bank that you're opening up a credit card with what credit company they will do the credit check on. And then you have to go to that company and unfreeze it.
Okay. Okay. What I was saying was a little bit different than that, but here's what I recommend, and I'm telling you because it changes very often, is just go to those companies. A friend of mine recently called and actually got someone that was very helpful, and she was able to call one and it then communicated. So she called TransUnion and it communicated with Equifax and the other one, which I always forget. Experian, thank you. And so when you're freezing your credit, initially, for those of you that didn't raise your hand, you're doing that with one and they communicate with the other 2. But double check that. Ask it, because this changes, I'm telling you, on a regular basis. And then ask them particularly, okay, if I want to freeze my credit, which I'm doing today, tell me how that works. And when I want to unfreeze it, tell me how that works. And just stay on top of it. Yes?
When you freeze the credit, that prevents anybody from opening up a credit card in your name.
Yes.
And does it also prevent you from using your existing credit cards?
No. The question is, if you freeze your credit, and he stated correctly, when you freeze your credit, it means a new credit card or a new account cannot be opened. So those fraudsters can't open new credit. But it doesn't do anything with your current credit card. You can go out and use your credit card. So if you lose a credit card, a criminal who may obtain it could go out and use that. And luckily, most credit cards will not make you pay for any of that fraudulent activity. And actually, that brings me to my next point, which is monitoring your accounts. So you want to monitor your credit card account to make sure nothing fraudulent is happening. Many credit card accounts will call you if they see an unusual charge. You want to monitor your bank accounts, your retirement accounts. Monitor them more frequently than just looking at your monthly statement. AARP recommends more frequently. They're not prescribing to you how often you're going to look, but they are saying monthly is just not probably good enough, because if something happens early in the month, you could have a whole month of fraudulent activity that you have not seen and done anything about. So how are you going to monitor those accounts? And it's online. You want to have those accounts online. And what AARP recommends is that you literally download the app that the financial institution offers, and you use that app. Why? Because those apps are going to have more sophisticated encryption on them than if you went to the internet, put in TD Bank, and went through that way, even though you're using a password. Those apps are safer. Does that, yes?
I would also advise that if you're going to use your
computer to go on, set up two-factor verification.
Okay, say that, I'm sorry, I was a little distracted. Say that one more time.
After you put in your user ID and your password, it's going to send a 6-digit code to your cell phone. And unless the thief has your cell phone, they won't be able to get in.
Yes. So what this gentleman is recommending is that you always use two-factor identification. So it might be that you put a password in, but then it's going to also communicate with your cell phone to give you a code that you input the code so that they know that it's really you. Okay? Now, how often do you go on? My husband checks our finances probably about every 3 to 4 days. You may say, I can only do it once a week, it's just too much for me. But what you're looking for is any type of transaction that wasn't you. And then you're going to call that institution and do something about it. Yes?
Another thing that you should consider is turning on your notifications. I know with my credit cards, every time a charge is made, I get an instant text.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing is when I give my card at a restaurant or wherever I'm shopping, and I get a charge, I can instantaneously check on my app that the charge matches what I signed for.
So he's suggesting that you sign up for instant notification on any charge on your card, which is usually an option for you. So you'll know ready time if someone has used your card inappropriately. One final thing about this. One of the reasons you most definitely want to sign up with your bank or your financial institution is that these fraudsters, when they start to do this, if you haven't done that, they're going to sign up for that themselves. And then they really can drain those bank accounts. And it's them who has the two-step identification, and they have the password. So you want to be in control of those apps, those sites, and those accounts. That make sense? Okay. So then let's go to the next, which is the password. You heard the gentleman say that you want to use different passwords. How many of you use the same password for almost every account that you have? My hand's up. I'm not proud, but I will say I have not taken care of this yet. And partly, why do we do that? Because it's easier to remember. It's so, it's rough. But what AARP is recommending, and we know that it's not smart to use the same password, right? So at least we've been educated enough to know that we're not being smart. Now we have to be smart. So AARP at a minimum is recommending that we use a different password for every account. And if we need to, we write those down and keep it in a safe place at home. That's not ideal. Yes?
What's their opinion about these password managers, like Google has a built-in password manager which will allow people to remember and use this passwords, but you can generate very complex passwords for you. And you can combine that with two-step verification so that nothing will change.
Yeah. So what the gentleman is asking is, what does AARP think about the Google Password Manager? And you know that AARP is not going to endorse any one program.
But just the idea there.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm headed next. And that is, to be even more safe, AARP is recommending a password manager app. And they're suggesting that you investigate those apps on your own, that you can go to PC World or Consumer Reports. If you don't get those, you can go to the library in most cases and see them. And you can use those apps to develop passwords, to store those passwords, Some of those apps will actually give you fraud alerts. I think somebody talked about fraud alerts before. They will do that on all the accounts that you have with that app. And they'll notify you of data breaches. There are free password manager apps. They basically, AARP says, you get what you pay for. So with most free password manager apps, maybe I shouldn't say most, with many, they might sell your data to advertisers, and you're going to have a lot of ads on those apps. So they are really suggesting that you might, if you can, you might want to purchase that app, but to do your own homework to get the app. Make sense? Yes?
Your cell phone, if you have an Apple phone, also has a password manager built into it for the apps on your cell phone.
Okay. Everybody heard that? I'm sorry, I mean to repeat everything. He suggested that if you have an iPhone, that Apple has a password manager on an iPhone for accounts that you access on your phone. I can't endorse that or not. I don't know anything about it, but it's great to know that it's there. And then finally, AARP wants to talk about the Wi-Fi, and if you ever use the Wi-Fi in public places. If you go to Starbucks and meet a bunch of friends and use your phone there because you're waiting for them, you want to be really careful what you're doing on that phone. Public Wi-Fi is not protected. Public Wi-Fi may even require a password to get on it. Not protected. So if you are using your phone there, play a game, search the web, do not do any financial transactions on a public Wi-Fi. All right? Don't say, oh, I want to get that, and I'm going to go to Amazon and buy it real quick because I'm thinking of it, because otherwise I'll forget. This is me talking, by the way. And then you go when you're in Starbucks and you buy that, and there you have it. Your financial information is on that public network.
The guy sitting next to you with a laptop has now got everything he needs.
Yeah, yeah. And, oh, go ahead.
You can shut down the Wi-Fi in your phone. So I keep it off all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he's suggesting that you can shut down the Wi-Fi on your phone, and that's fine. But what I'm talking about is if you're actually using
but most of the things you can reach it by the phone, not the Wi-Fi.
Okay. All right. If you, yes.
Going back to the first thing about freezing your credit, you have some concern about privacy of information, you freeze your credit. When would you unfreeze your credit?
Well, what my understanding is you would unfreeze your credit when you want to open an account. So if you're going to go buy a car and you're going to finance that car, you want to unfreeze your credit because otherwise they will not give you that loan. So anytime if you want to get a new credit card, you're going to need to unfreeze your credit.
Otherwise, you can do all your transactions, normal transactions.
Yeah, yes. That's only for new accounts. Okay? So this final one in relation to using public Wi-Fi. So you can, if you must, use public Wi-Fi. Maybe you're a traveler and you use the Wi-Fi at the airports all the time. You can purchase a VPN, which is a virtual private network. And again, software that would be added to your computer, and you can protect yourself by going through that network, even when you're in a public place, and that will provide that security for you. They use Norton as an example, IPVanish, CyberGhost. And you know what, I forgot to also list some of the suggestions for password. They're not endorsing these, they're just saying these are the names you might hear. For password protection, iPass, Dashlane, Bitwarden, and LastPass. Yes?
When they have access to your account, how much can they take out at one time? And why wouldn't they just drain the whole account at one point in time?
They possibly could. He's asking how much can someone drain from your accounts, and they can drain them to zero. Yeah, in one shot. And you're right, if they're smart, and that's a possibility. You would do that so that you wouldn't get caught, possibly. I've heard so many stories of this happening in so many different ways. A little bit comes out, a lot comes out. Oh, somebody just suggested that they may test it first to see what happens.
What they do is they set up a microtransaction for like $1. And if it goes through, then they go for the big bucks.
He's saying that oftentimes they'll set up a micro transaction, which is $1, to see if it goes through. And you may check your accounts and see that $1 and go, I didn't do that. What is that? And call, and then immediately shut it down, and they can't do any more. But who knows? They might not be that smart, and they may go for the whole, for the gold. You never know. Yes?
Relative to the VPNs, there are free VPNs, but articles I've read said that they're not particularly secure. So if you're going to use a VPN, you should probably buy one.
Okay, so he's suggesting that if you're thinking about a VPN, there are free options, but you don't want to use free options necessarily because he has heard they're not secure. You want to do your homework on all of these decisions, and that you might want to buy access to a VPN if you need to do that. Yes?
For instance, you mentioned Norton. Norton will also run on your telephone, and it has the capability of a VPN. Since you bought Norton, you have that capability.
Oh, excellent.
It's not the greatest.
Yeah, so he's saying this might not be the greatest, but if you're looking for a VPN and you choose Norton, that Norton has the capability of running on your computer and also running on your phone. And maybe others do too, I don't know. And if that's important to you, then that's a choice that you need to make when you're looking at a VPN. You may not need a VPN. You may just want to choose not to do financial transactions in public, networks. That's an easy, inexpensive answer to that. Yes?
One other thing, credit card companies such as Capital One allow you to do a virtual credit card, which means you want to go pay for something, you go on, you get a unique account number that gets linked to your virtual thing. It's used just one time, and it's gone. It's something that makes it a little bit more difficult to steal. And Capital One's called email. Is that it?
So he is suggesting that Capital One and maybe other credit cards have the service where you can get a special account number to use that credit card online? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Online, so that it protects the fact that you're using that account online. It's just another belts and suspenders, basically. If that makes any sense. I'm not sure I paraphrased that very well, but... So, AARP, the mission of AARP is to help make older adults' lives in the U.S. better. It's as simple as that. And when we are under siege, they get involved. So one of their top priorities is helping to reduce fraud against older adults in this country. And this effort started years ago, and they started AARP's fraud a watch. It's called Fraud Watch Network. And if you know anyone who has been the victim of fraud, I strongly recommend that their first step is, well, obviously, if it's happened with their banks, the first step is to call the financial institutions, but then they call this number or go on to AARP.org/fraudwatchnetwork. I'm going to give you the number too. And I think that the handouts that were sent out to you have the phone number, but it's 877-908-3360. Yes?
Do you have any paperwork you could give us on this?
I don't have the paperwork, but I understand that Ed emailed it to you.
Yeah, you already have
To save paper, we work more electronically now, so it should be in your email. Yes?
Well, that would have problems with fraud if you keep your money up.
Okay, good.
Okay. That one I'm going to repeat just because it's fun. He said you'll never have issues if you keep your money in your mattress. We won't talk about the other issues that you might have. But now, in all seriousness, because I do this kind of speaking, I get a lot of my friends will come, and I mean a lot. I don't have that many friends, and probably 30% of them have come to me because they've been the victim of fraud. Really? It's happening, all the time. So my first thing is call AARP, and I'll tell you why. They are great at telling people what to do next. Almost more importantly, helping people not feel like they're stupid idiots. And you don't realize how important that is until you've had this experience and you don't want to tell anyone because you're embarrassed. That's part of the problem. They think that the number, that billions and billions of dollars, is actually so underreported because people don't want to admit this. So AARP, if you call that number, they're going to be compassionate and educated about what steps you need to take. And another very important aspect is they maintain the data. So they know where these frauds are happening, what kind of frauds are happening, and they can tell you if you, let me make sure that I get this one right, if you ask for the scam tracking map, you either go online and get it, or you ask them to send it to you. You will know where the scams are happening and what is the latest scam. And the whole idea is the more educated we are, the less successful the bad guys are going to be. It makes perfect sense. So I really strongly recommend that phone number because everyone I've sent there has been helped. Yes?
So you're going to get the phone number too? Great.
Yes.
About 4 years ago, I was subscribing to a publication. I don't know if it was the Cleveland Clinic or Harvard Medical Center. They have a number of publications, which are pretty good, that come out it seems like almost daily. So I went to the website. I wanted to cancel it. I ended up on the wrong website. It was not the Cleveland Clinic or Harvard newsletter website. I clicked on it. I ended up talking to this gentleman who ended up fleecing me out of about $1,000 on my American Express account. Fortunately, the company took care of it. But you got to be very careful when you go on the internet and you're looking for a website that exactly matches.
Right. Right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And it was just that he went to cancel a subscription, went to what he thought was the right website. It ended up being the wrong website, which happens all the time. The names look really close to what you're trying to get. And he gave them information, and it ended up costing the credit card company, luckily enough, about $1,000. Happens all the time to very, very bright, smart people. Yes.
How many people here have been the target of a scam?
Yeah, how many people have? Oh my goodness. Yep, see?
Can I have that number again, kindly?
Yes.
77?
Yes, you can.
Take a picture of the screen.
Okay, the number, I'm sorry?
Previous screen.
Go back so we can take a picture.
One screen.
Go back one screen, yes.
Thank you.
Is the number on there? Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I couldn't see it, so that's why I was giving it.
So what do I do with all the prizes that I won?
You know, we have a number of different presentations that we do, and one of them is basically about just that. He just said, what do I do with all the prizes I've won? And one of the recommendations is if you don't play the lottery, you didn't win the lottery. And I thought that was kind of funny because that's one of the big scams. Hey, you've won all this money, but you have to pay money in order to get the money. Yes.
Will you go back a screen or two?
Yeah. You tell me where.
Okay, cyber criminals are lazy. Could you spend a few moments on that?
You know, I really can't, but what I can say about that is that, and this comes from the gentleman that we heard from in the video. He basically said, as a former cyber criminal, that cyber criminals are lazy. If you make it hard for them to make any money on your data, they're not going to try very hard. Okay. I think that's what they mean. And so therefore, the strategies we talked about today are those that will make it hard for them to make money on you. Okay, so we have to be vigilant. We can't not be online. We cannot put our money in our mattresses. Not anymore.
Mattress doesn't pay interest.
Yeah, right. The mattress doesn't pay interest. That's what this gentleman said. And then just finally, I'm part of the Speakers Bureau. This isn't an advertisement, but I figured I would just say it. AARP has a ton of volunteer opportunities. You would be shocked at all the services that AARP provides. Ed helps with the tax preparation and does work between January, February, March, April. And, so there's just a lot of opportunities. That's how I got involved in the Speakers Bureau. So if you're ever interested, New Jersey has a very robust office. Always interested in hearing from folks and finding what might work for you all. Any other questions? Yes?
Well, one other thing. If you get an inquiry from a credit card company, and they put a telephone number in the inquiry, or you go online, you get a notice that your account's been frozen, so you go online to get a telephone number to call them, don't use them. Those are all fake numbers, because the notice that you got telling you that your credit was frozen is by one of these scammers who's hoping that the number you call is your number. Always call the number on the back of your credit card.
And then just to follow up on that, and this is part of another presentation, but it's easily said, the government, the federal government, Medicare, Social Security, they are not going to communicate with you via email, via telephone, via text, unless they have written you on old-fashioned paper and told you you're being investigated or you've overpaid or whatever. So don't believe any of the fake government stuff going on out there. And the other piece of this with Medicare and Social Security is go online and have an account with them, because you will get communication through that account that is encrypted and password protected. Okay? Yes?
Now, I know that no one here has a bad memory, I would recommend when you go home and grab a significant other, you know, the boss lady, fill her into some of these things so she doesn't make some of these mistakes. As soon as you get home, you'll forget.
And because she's a woman, she'll probably already know anyway, so no big deal. Thank you. Yeah, I will.
So speaking of wives, I'll give you a little caution about freezing your credit. Okay, I froze my credit years ago. And of course, Judy decides she's going out to Coldwater Creek and she's going to buy something. And of course, the woman at Coldwater Creek says, if you open a credit card, we're going to get 10% off. And of course, Judy says, sure, no problem. And the woman comes back and says, sorry, your credit's frozen, so share that with your wife if you're going to freeze your credit. And when she goes out and says she's going to Coldwater Creek, you got to unfreeze it. And absolutely, I think Bob said it, or somebody did, you can unfreeze it for a day, you can unfreeze it for a week. Usually, when I unfreeze it, I'll unfreeze it for a week, and then it automatically gets frozen again.
You let it defrost, right?
I let it defrost. The other thing somebody mentioned was, you know, ask the credit, whoever's going to give you credit, ask them which credit bureau they use. They don't always know. Some of them will say to you, we use all of them indiscriminately. So you do have to unfreeze all three in some cases. In some cases, they'll say, no, we use TransUnion, just unfreeze TransUnion. So there's as Sarah said, things are changing with them all the time, but it is very useful. The other thing, and I think somebody bordered on it, I use alerts on most of my credit card. You can put a $1 limit in. I use a credit card. I use one for gas and groceries, but the same credit card. I have a $30 limit on that, or $40, I think. So if I fill up with gas and I get $35, I don't get an alert. If I get $45 or I get $50 or $100 on that card, I'm getting an alert saying somebody used your card for $100. I know there's an issue. So you can use alerts.
You can also put an alert if the card was not shown.
Well, I automatically, on all my cards, if I'm using it on the web, I automatically get an alert on all my cards. The card was not presented because I'm using it on the web.
Okay, last but not least.
Oh, by the way, you can put an alert on your checking accounts too. Almost all the banks will give you, under security, you tell them the largest check that you will allow to be transacted. And if it goes beyond that, you will get an alert telling you that there has been a check presented for above the amount of the limit.
So what he is suggesting, and it sounds like this is probably the case with many, many different types of accounts, but in particular, you can put alerts on checking accounts as well. So you may want to just literally list all the financial accounts you have and go down the list and try to get those security features on those accounts.
In addition to everything that you talked about, something else I've done is I've purchased identity theft insurance. I get alerts. Insurance covers any expenses incurred if I were to have my identity stolen, and up to $1 million in recovery for any financial loss. It costs about $100 a year, and I think it's a little easier.
Read it by it.
Also,
mine from Geico, but there are tons of
interesting. Most homeowners policies will include it as an endorsement.
Right.
So they're talking about there's insurance now that you can buy for identity theft. So it's just another idea. I'm gonna call it done. I have a grandchild waiting for me in a kayak at home, so I got to get home.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
You're also an honorary member for a year. You can have breakfast for a year.
I'm coming every Sunday now. Okay.
Okay, now right away, 50-50. 50-50.
Oh no, now I'm going to leave before anybody gets mad at it.
How much is it?
How much, Steve?
All right, $45. Pick a number.
$45 for the 50/50. All right. Last three numbers, last three. 382. 382. Jerry? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. This was great. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Meeting is done. Again, it's... What? So, investment club, please stay. Investment club, please stay right here.